All right, so we've got a really cool set of materials here, all about states of matter,
Yeah.
and specifically focusing on water.
Hmm.
But, what really jumped out at me was how climate change is impacting the water cycle. I mean, think about it. It's wild how, like, a simple glass of water or, even rain is connected to this much bigger global system. So are you ready to kind of do a deep dive into the science behind it all?
Absolutely.
Perfect. So our main source here is this, looks like it's like a science knowledge organizer, probably straight from a classroom.
Yeah.
It's one of those things that's like easy to forget. Water, it's like everywhere, right?
Yeah, we take it for granted.
Totally. But what makes it really special is that it's one of the few substances on Earth that naturally exists in all three states of matter.
Yeah, solid, liquid, and gas.
Right, exactly. And each of those states plays such a critical role in like the balance of our planet's systems. So, okay, let's break this down a bit. I mean, I know we all see ice, water, and steam every day, but what actually defines those states of matter? What makes them, different?
Well, it all boils down to how the molecules are arranged and how much they move around.
Okay.
So in a solid like ice, the molecules are like packed super tight together
Mm-hmm.
and they can only like vibrate in place. They can't really go anywhere. That's why ice holds its shape.
Yeah.
But then in a liquid, like just regular water, the molecules are still kind of close together, but they can move around a bit more freely.
Right.
So that's why water, it takes the shape of whatever container you put it in.
Gotcha.
And then finally, in a gas like steam, the molecules are totally spread out and they're zipping around all over the place, filling whatever space they're in.
Oh, that makes sense. Yeah. So temperature is like the key to switching between those states, right?
Yeah.
I know the organizer mentions specific temperatures for when water changes states.
Right.
Like what, 0 degrees Celsius for freezing or melting?
Yeah,
exactly.
and then 100 degrees Celsius for boiling and condensing.
Yeah.
But what I find really fascinating is how those changes, those transformations, are actually tied into the water cycle.
Yeah.
Oh, the water cycle, the thing we all learned about in grade school, the arrows and the clouds and all that.
Yeah.
What's so fascinating about that,
It's way more than just arrows and clouds. It's like the water cycle is the engine that drives life on Earth.
Mhm.
I mean, think about it. Evaporation from the oceans, the
Yeah.
lakes, that creates those clouds.
Right.
And those clouds eventually release rain, which then replenishes the freshwater sources and the ecosystems, all the plants and animals.
Okay, yeah. I see what you mean. It's definitely more than just a simple diagram, yeah. But how does climate change, how does that fit into all this?
Well, as the planet heats up, the entire water cycle gets thrown off balance.
Okay.
So you see more evaporation happening, which can lead to some areas having way more intense rainfall and even flooding.
Oh, wow. And then other areas actually end up getting less rainfall and end up with these really long droughts.
So it's not just that, the planet is getting warmer. It's like these domino effects that happen that just mess up, entire ecosystems.
Exactly.
It's wild. Like take melting glaciers, for example.
Yeah.
All that meltwater, it flows into the ocean.
Yeah.
And that causes sea levels to rise, which, threatens those coastal communities.
Yeah.
And in places that really depend on glacial melt for their freshwater supply, like entire populations could face water scarcity.
Exactly. It's
Yeah.
a huge problem.
It's mind-blowing, honestly, that like seemingly small changes in temperature can have these massive, massive consequences.
Yeah, and that's just the beginning. Scientists are still trying to figure out, all the intricacies of how climate change is affecting the water cycle. But one thing is clear, the effects are widespread and they're significant.
Yeah. So we've got this like incredibly important interconnected system that's essential for life on Earth. And we're kind of messing it up in ways we don't even fully understand yet.
Yeah.
It's a lot to think about. So what does all this mean? Like, what can we even do about it?
That's the big question, isn't it? I mean, given how global climate change is and how interconnected the water cycle is, what approaches, like on a worldwide scale, do you think are the most promising for mitigating these impacts?
Wow, that is a really good question. Something to think about for sure. Thanks for diving deep with us today into the world of water and the impact of climate change. I mean, it's definitely given me a whole new perspective on something that I thought I already knew.
Yeah, it's fascinating stuff.
It really is.